Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Progressive American. I'm your host, Conor Kelly. Welcome to the show. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Trump administration's tariff wars, the Republican Party's attack on Medicaid, and much more. With that out of the way, let's get into the news. In another display of the ineptitude of the Trump administration, President Trump has gone back and forth on whether or not he will ignite a trade war between the United States and its allies. On Thursday, the administration announced that there would be a one-month delay on all tariffs towards Mexico and Canada that are covered by the USMCA Free Trade Treaty. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said, quote, "After speaking with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, I have agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. This agreement is until April 2nd. I did this as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you to President Sheinbaum for your hard work and cooperation." While Mexico's president argued that nearly all of the goods that Mexico supplies to the United States are covered by the agreement, CNN notes that White House officials have pushed back on that, arguing that roughly 50% of all goods imported from Mexico and roughly 36% of imports from Canada are covered under the agreement. And while the pause on tariffs is a good thing, the fact that the administration is pushing back on the idea of general coverage for Canadian and Mexican goods suggests that the administration is looking for a way to get out of its commitment to hold off on tariffs. Now, this is a bit speculative on my part, but thus far, Trump has shown a consistent willingness to engage with tariffs as a default policy rather than a last resort option. It seems to me that Trump is looking for a way to put tariffs in place with a random justification without having to deal with the market consequences of that decision. And in a press conference this Friday, Trump threatened Canada with tariffs of up to 250% in retaliation for tariffs Canada has in place. Now, it's worth noting that Trump is only giving you a bit of a picture of the Canadian tariff system. The tariffs in question can get high on dairy, and that has harmed American farmers. However, it is worth noting that these tariffs don't just pop in on every import that goes into Canada from the United States. Rather, the tariffs go into effect after a certain level of importation has been reached. In other words, the Trump administration is attempting to use a specific policy by Canada as a justification for its more broad policy that will only hurt American consumers. This attempt to distract the American people from the reality of their goods costing more is nothing short of deceptive and wrong. And remember, Trump ran on reducing the price of goods and groceries. And the fact that he isn't even trying shows you all you need to know about his concerns about the American people. He will not suffer the consequences of his policy decisions, but he will be able to tout how he protected Americans even as he takes money out of their wallet through his ridiculous policies. And even as Trump now guts the administrative state, which is supposed to help and protect the American people, he fails to fulfill his campaign promises of reducing the price of goods. Instead, he's making the problem worse while allowing his sycophants to do whatever they want in government, even if it hurts the American people. Nobody should be surprised that this administration has no serious economic policy that will assist them in their day-to-day lives. Instead, it was always about the distraction, the jingoism, and the lies. Speaking of destroying the administrative state, Republicans in Congress are seeking massive cuts to critical services with their new budget. On Wednesday, NBC News reported that Republicans won't be able to meet their recently passed budget plan to cut nearly $2 trillion in spending without taking cuts out of Medicaid. Previously, the House GOP ordered the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, to cut roughly $880 billion from services under its jurisdiction. The Congressional Budget Office reports that over 10 years, the jurisdiction accounts for $8.8 trillion, with $8.2 trillion of said funding going to Medicaid. This means roughly 93% of the Energy and Commerce Committee's decade-long funding goes towards Medicaid. According to the same report by NBC, when we exclude Medicare and Medicaid, the total funding under the committee's control is roughly $581 billion. Simply put, there is no way to cut $880 billion from the committee's jurisdiction without targeting Medicaid. ABC News reports that as of October 2024, an estimated 79.4 million Americans were enrolled in Medicaid, with 41.7 million adults and 37.6 million children enrolled in the program. This program protects not only Americans' health, but also their future when they are in dire financial straits. Through their decision to pursue this unrealistic and ridiculous attempt to cut $2 trillion from the budget, Republicans are facing the simple reality that austerity hurts everyday Americans, and they know it. If they continue to pursue this policy, it could seriously backfire. A recent Kaiser Family Foundation poll found that fewer than 17% of adults want to see Medicaid funding decrease, and 42% think funding should increase. A Politico analysis of said polling shows that over 60% of Trump voters say Medicaid is very important to their communities, with only 33% of Republicans and 35% of Trump supporters favoring cuts. While Republicans will loathe to admit it, their budget is not only harmful to the American people, but it is harmful to their own voters. It is unpopular and cruel, and almost certainly will provoke a backlash if they pursue it further. However, I would like to extend an olive branch to the Republicans. If they want to cut billions of dollars and not hurt Americans while doing so, perhaps they could cut Elon Musk off from his billions of dollars in contracts. It would save them roughly $18 billion and not rob Americans of their needed support. Just a thought. In today's final story, we turn to the dysfunction and ego battles growing in the White House. The New York Times reports that Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Elon Musk had a pronounced argument on Thursday. During that meeting, Musk accused Rubio of failing to fire staff, and Rubio denied it, pointing out that roughly 1,500 employees had taken a buyout to leave their positions under his leadership. At one point, Elon suggested that Rubio was only good at being on TV, which suggested a long-standing tension between the two. Rather than immediately stop the fight, Trump waited a bit before finally intervening to defend Rubio, saying that he was, quote, doing a good job and that he had a lot to handle. Other staffers, such as Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, also got into it with Musk, accusing the billionaire of wanting to fire air traffic controllers, with Elon denying it, even as Duffy pointed out that his staff had to stop DOJ from interfering in the agency's work. This back and forth ended with Trump announcing that secretaries of their respective agencies would handle staffing and that Musk would only serve in an advisory capacity. When the Times asked for comment, the White House repeatedly denied any issue, insisting that the meeting was productive. However, Musk has long angered staffers, and the meeting demonstrates this clear as day. Musk is reckless, and Trump knows it. And as such, Trump's decision to curb his influence shows that Musk could be leaving anytime soon. And this just goes to show how arrogant Elon Musk is. He isn't concerned about the effective application of government, he isn't concerned about the people he hurts, and he isn't concerned about who is and isn't a legitimate officer of the United States government. The fact remains he is an unelected billionaire who has no right to do any of the things he is doing right now. And yet, because of Donald Trump and his lackeys, Elon continues to have unfettered access to government systems, data, and information that could harm American citizens. While it is unclear whether or not Elon will be leaving anytime soon, the fact remains he is completely and utterly out of line with what he has been doing over the last several weeks, and he needs to be removed. Period. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider checking out the newsletter at progressiveamerican.net. If you sign up for a free subscription, you'll get newsletters, podcasts, and other material directly to your email for free. If you want early access to videos, articles, and other material, or if you'd just like to suggest article ideas for me in the private chat, you can sign up for a paid subscription. Thanks again for listening, and have a wonderful day.